When you first log in to the ManageSyncPro, you're directed to the projects dashboard, and that's at this tab right here. When you first log in, you're not going to have any projects here. I went ahead and created one, but I'm going to show you how to do that. We'll look at this first page first. So to create a project, you just click on the Add button here, and you can name it whatever you want. I'll just call it A. Okay, and hit OK. And then you'll see it's added in there. And then if you want to modify the name, you just click on the pencil sign. I'll take off the 1A and just call it 2. Press OK. And you can see it's added in here. These metrics will make sense later as we go through the getting started tutorial, and you'll see where these numbers come from. If you want to delete a project, you can just delete it here. If you want to save a template, we'll talk about that in a little bit. For now, manage phases. Basically, when you have a project, you can have different phases. Like, for example, if you're doing a construction project, maybe you've got planning phase, and then you've got framing phase, and then you've got you'll have foundation phase and framing and roofing and different kind of phases that you'll have in there. If you're doing a film production project, it'll be different phases for that. But this is where all of those phases will show up here. If you have holidays that you want to have for your project, you put those in here. You put the start date of the project here and the ship to address if that's applicable. So if you're shipping products to, say, for example, a construction site, you'd put the construction site address here. And then for the template, say, for example, we just added this project, right? Project 2. So now let's talk a little bit about these templates. So it comes with built-in templates with the software. So several of these, all that you see here, come built in, and we'll choose this one. For example, we'll choose the example template, and we'll click import template. It'll give you a warning just saying, hey, are you sure you want to do this? For us, it's no big deal. We don't have any tasks, but if you had added tasks previously, those would be overwritten. It's letting you know that, so you can hit OK. Okay, so it imported the template. Now, if you click on the Manage Templates, you'll see that, well, we didn't add any templates in here. Maybe we'll add in a template later. But as I mentioned before, we will come back. That's where you add a template. We'll talk about that in a second. However, let's go over to this project. So this project here is selected. So now we're going to go over to the Gantt chart. This is what the example template looks like. So it's just got an example, finish to start task. So this has 4 different relationships that you can have as predecessors. Let me, for example, like if you wanted to add a different predecessor for task 3 here, say you wanted a predecessor, you wanted to add one of these other tasks as a predecessor, then you would click that, and the 4 different types of relationship are finish to start, start to start, finish to finish, and start to finish. And then you would click confirm. I won't do that here. I'll just click cancel and get out of this. But I want you to see these different relationships. Now this is red because this is the critical path. If you're familiar with project controls type terminology, the critical path, it's the short answer is that any increase of a task along that path will increase the end date. So, like for example, if you increase the duration here, this would not increase the end date. So this one is not on the critical path. That's why it's not red. So you'll see everything that's has a border of red or a red line like this. This is all on the critical path here. Now the finish to finish relationship. Let's start with the finish to start. This is the most common relationship. So finish to start, meaning it means that you're going to finish this task before you start the next one, and then you've got a finish to finish relationship. That's what you see here on this one. So you've got you have to finish this task before you can finish this task. So for example, if I increase the duration here of this task, this one is going to move because this one has to finish before this one can finish. So I'll increase it here, and you'll see that it moved this relationship out like that. And then, but let's back up a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about this format here. So if you wanted to, like for example, hide any of these columns or anything, you can hide those here. I'm actually going to show a few more. I'm going to show the actions and phase, hit apply. You'll see those columns appear here. And then let me kind of pull this back a little. So let's also mention the start to finish. So here is the start to finish relationship. So you've got, that means that you have to start this task before you can finish this task. So if that's the start to finish relationship. And then you've got start to start. So this one here means that you have to start this task before you can start this task. So that's how these are related. So that's the four main predecessor types that you can add in. Again, you control those here in this column. And then so now you can you can rename the tasks whatever you like. In this, for this example template that we have, I've got example finish to start task. You've got it here. An example start to start task here. That's this one here. Then you've got the start and end dates. These will be calculated automatically based on the durations and the lead and lag times. We'll talk a little bit about that. Let's do that now, actually. So here's where you control the duration. So you can control the duration of this task right here. We already kind of, well, you can, decrease it to 4, whatever you like. You can increase it like this. If you wanted to add a some lead time, excuse me, that means it would pull it back a little bit. So if I increased it 1, you should see it come to the left. So I'll do that. You'll increase it, and then it comes to the left there. Now I'll reduce it back down to 0, and I go back to the 7th, and then now let's see what happens if we add lead time to this one. So this one should come to the left. So I add it, you can see it coming to the left like that. Okay, that's how the lead time works. The lag, the lead time. Then the lag time, if I increase this is going to push it to the right. So you can see how that works. Okay, and then what you can do as well is you can change the unit of the lag time. So this unit right here only applies to the lag time. So a lot of times when you a lot of times the thing that is that happens on projects is the lag time will increase. So this, if you want to, instead of using lag time in days, you can use it in weeks. You can also use it as a percentage as well, a percentage of the duration. Okay, let's see. We talked briefly about predecessors. You can add multiple predecessors if you like. Before we do that, let's actually add in. Let's come up top here and let's just look at, so here's the Gantt chart. Here's the project that you're on. This is what you selected over in this tab over here. Here's the start date. That's what you also set that over in this tab. You can edit it. This will bring you over to that tab so you can edit the start date. Here's the end date based on all the durations and relationships. The work week, so you can see it's shaded based on the work week that you've got selected here. We have a 5-day work week. You can also change it to 6 days. You can see that it'll shade the non-working day. You can move it to 7 days as well, and it'll change all the end dates and everything based on that. We'll switch it back to 5 now. We talked about the column selector. Now if you want to add a task, now if I had not imported a template, this would have just been basically a Gantt chart with no tasks. And you would do the same thing. You could start actually by hitting add task, but I've got a few tasks in here already. I'll go ahead and add a task. And you can name this whatever you want. Let's call it example multi-predecessor. I don't know. Okay, we'll do that. We'll move it up. This is where you control where you want it to be, so you can move it up a little. We will now. What we'll do is we'll make we'll give this a predecessor of. We'll use this as a predecessor. So we'll use task 4. We'll say task 4. We'll give it a finish to start. We'll confirm it. And you'll see that it is now using task 4 as its predecessor. Now, we'll also make this a predecessor. So we will come back over here and we'll add task 3 to that. And we'll also make it a finish to start relationship. Just add it in there. Close it out. You can now see that it's taken both of these as predecessors. Now you'll notice something. This is a little different than most Gantt charts that you see. This just is a little more clear to me. I am an engineer, so I like things to be very precise, very exact, and very clear. A lot of times you'll see arrows going into the middle of bars. And I like to just distinguish it a little bit just to make it more scannable, more discernible, that you've got the coming out of the predecessor, it's a circle at the bottom right-hand corner of the bar, and then it comes down to the dependent bar, and it enters at the top left corner, and it's a diamond. So it makes it very clear whether this is coming from or going to the bar, whether it's a predecessor, whether it's a dependent. And then we've got the FS relationship here that lets us know it's the finish to start. This lets us know this is also a finish to start. You can see the bar is coming from this task and this task, and it's both of them are merging right here. Okay, so now if we want to, if we set a baseline schedule, you would set it here. You click it, and once you click it, then if you show it, you'll see that here are the baseline shows up in gray. I haven't set any actual dates yet. That's why those are not shown, but those will show up whenever we start showing those. Those will be green bars. And we'll get to that in a moment. Okay. Let's go through more of these. So let's talk a bit about the constraints here. The constraint here, let's use this example. Well, let's just add a new task in here. Okay, so we add a new task. Let's call it example constraint. Now for this one, we're going to set the constraint that it must start on, what is this? We'll say March 11th. Okay, we'll do that. So we'll say that this must start on March 11th. Okay, so now you can see that that's what's happening here. It's going to start right there at that date. That's what the constraints are. There's a few constraints that you can put in there. You can either have it start on or finish on. If you leave it at the default of as soon as possible, it will just simply take the relationships that you set up in here, like your predecessors, as to calculate where exactly is the soonest possible date. If it has no predecessors, it just goes back to the start date. Okay, that's constraint. Now resources. This is a powerful tool here. So this is where you can resource load certain tasks. However, let me show you now how you can add resources so that you can use them on projects. So you go over to the Resources tab, and say now we want to add a resource. Now a resource can be either an employee, equipment, a subcontractor, vendor, or material. In this case, let's set up a new piece of equipment. Let's call it crane. 101, whatever you might have. You may have names for your equipment, and then you'll add a description, model T, 2000 horsepower. Okay, so you add that in here. Let's add in a cement mixer as well. Cement mixer 102A. All right, let's make it equipment, and let's call this model 241. That's enough. Okay, so you can add in, we just added in equipment, but you can add in, employees if you want, and you'll see why all this is useful here in a moment. So now we'll go back to the Gantt chart, and we'll go back to the, let's go to the example multi-predecessor task that we had here. Let's add a resource here. Let's use the crane. Let's assign that to this task and confirm. Okay, so now we have this on example multi-predecessor. Okay, so now let's see one place where this is useful. We'll move now to the calendar. Now the calendar, you'll be able to see all the projects that you load in here. Let's see, we had so these are our projects that we added, that we have available so far. We'll apply those. So now this is basically a calendar view of what is seen on the Gantt chart. Now this is showing all of the previous example tasks that we had from project 2. That's what you're seeing here. Well, let me click on this and you can see. So you've got the project 1 here, you've got project 2. It's showing all the tasks that need to be done for that day. And now let's filter by only the resources. I believe it was the crane that we added. So let's filter by that. And you can see it'll show you all the places where that resource is being used. And we only assigned it to one task, and here it is. It's the example multi-predecessor task. Now that becomes useful if you've got limited resources. Look, for example, you have only a certain number of a piece of equipment, and you need to use it on 17 different projects, and each of them are using that equipment at different times. And you need to make sure that that piece of equipment is not being overutilized or scheduled 5 times to be used in one day. Whenever it can only be used once in one day, those types of things. So this will help you to see where that piece of equipment is being used and how much it's being used. You can do this with employees to assign their schedules. You can do this with vendors and subcontractors to let them know when you're going to need them on site, what days and that type of thing. You can see a more detailed report if you need to over here. This will show you where that resource is being used and more details about it. But a lot of times you'll probably find that the calendar view is very useful as well, where you can just see it visually on the calendar. Let's see, so now we will switch over to the schedule tracker. This is where we have all of our tasks that we brought in for the project number 2 here. Say, for example, that you completed this task on March 10th. Okay, and then it went to the 14th. Let's put that. Okay, so this will show you these types of details, like the actual duration that you took, the slippage that you had from the start and end. We'll move this now to 100% since we're saying it's complete. Let's also say that this task right here is 50% complete. Okay, now what you'll see, I'll go back to the projects matrix, projects dashboard real quick, and you'll see the schedule percent complete here. So this is, that's where that's coming from, the actuals that we just put in there. I'll go back to the schedule tracker. Now I will also go to the Gantt chart so you can see this now showing up 310 to 314. Now we'll show the baseline and actual, and you'll see 310 to 314 here. So that's where that actual bar shows up. Okay. Now, okay, that's enough for the schedule tracker. I think that basically covers that. Now, for the cost tracker, this is where you would set your budget for each task. You know, all these are zero because I just added the project. But let's go through and let's say $100 for each of these. So let's just say 100. Let me just copy paste this. So we'll just paste these in here. Give some example numbers just so you can see how these are showing up. We can go through each of these columns to try to make sure they all make sense. Okay. Okay, so now we've got our original budget in here, and then we've got approved change amount. So let's do an example for this one first. Okay, let's do a change order. So say that on project number 2, I don't have a client loaded in here. Okay, now's a good time to show where you would do that. So you would come down to Manage and then go to User Roles. Okay. Okay, so we added in a client here. Now we'll go back to change orders. We'll select this project. We'll add in the client now that he's there. We'll give this a change order name. So we'll call this C2-001. And we'll say that we'll give it a submit date of, okay. Contact person, we'll call him John Doe. Okay, then we'll leave these at 0. Now select terms and conditions. We'll have to come back to this in a moment so you can see what those are. But for now, let's give this a description, and we'll say example, change order, line 1. We'll have to come back to what these mean as well. Select the specifications. But for selecting a task, let's add in the example multi-predecessor. So we'll add that in. We'll say a quantity of 1 and a unit price of, say, 5. And then we'll add that item. Okay. So now let's leave it like that. Let's just give it one line item and add the change order. Okay, let's give it a valid schedule day, okay, or maybe even 0. Oh, remove this, okay, and add the change order. Okay, so now we have this change order in here. Now, if we wanted to see what it looks like, you'd click here, and this is where whenever you add in your company name, on the accounts page, only the license holder can do that. That's where this information would show up. When I say the account page, I mean this one here. All right. Then the date, the change order number, your logo as well would show up here whenever you add it on the accounts page. Here's the contact information. Now you see the ship to address. Let's go back over here. let's provide a ship to address. So let's say 123 Main Street, Anytown, USA. All right. Now, when we come back over to the change order now, and we hit the PDF again, okay, you'll see that now that's where that information comes to. The ship to John Doe, you saw where that came from. Now, I added in these things earlier. When I added the user in, I gave them these so you can see how this comes in. So this is the name of his company, the street, the city, the state, the phone number, the email of his company, and the website. And then here are the line numbers that we had for the change order, the quantity, the price, total price. So it's $5. And so let's see, Part 2 specifications and the terms and conditions. Those are both NA. But for now, let's go with the $5. Let's see how this translates into the financial sheet. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a second tab here. Hold down this cost tracker. Okay, and now let me see if I can make it like this. Kind of slide this like. Okay, so we've got the change order and the financial overview side by side here. And so whenever we change the status of the line item to approved, then whenever we come over to the other side here, we'll see that the updated change amount here is going to change to $5 now. So let me refresh the page so that we can see that. Okay, so I just refreshed. Now you can see that it updates whenever the status is changed to approve over here, approved. The approved, now there is a portal for the client to log into and review this, the change order, which is this. They'll see the same PDF and they can review it, approve it, decline it. But if they do approve it, then it does update here. The option is also here for for you as the user to change this to approved as well, because some clients aren't going to want to use that portal. They'll want to use verbal, that kind of thing. So this is where you would do that. But anyway, if the status is approved, you can see that it will update the financial tracking sheet here to incorporate that now into the current budget. So here's the line for the current budget. So this just takes the original budget plus the approved change amount and sums them. Now for the actual cost, we will need to go to, and the committed cost, we'll need to go to a different tab here so you can see where those are coming from. So let's go over to the purchase order. So I'm only going to do a purchase order, but it'll work similarly for a subcontract. I think I won't show an invoice either, but that works similar as well when you are sending bills to the client. It's similar to the change order. But for now, we'll do a purchase order. Okay, we'll use the same project. Okay, now we need to add a vendor in here. Let's do a purchase order. Okay, same project. Let's add in this vendor. Let's call this a PO. Let's call it P2-001. The contact person, let's make it Jones Smith. Okay, before we do this, let's actually go back and add in a term and a condition so that you can kind of see what these are. So we'll come over to terms and conditions. We'll add in, let's make this, let's say that payment terms 30 days. All right, here are my standard T's and C's for net payment in 30 days. Okay, you'll add that. Now you can come back. Let's also add in a specification. Let's call this one lumber. Oak 2x4. Here is a description of what I'd like the lumber to be like, and you can specify, you know, anything about the lumber that you like here. But let's say, let's add material, add labor. Let's say for the material that the lumber 2x4, you know, is M20. I know that's not right, but, and then we'll say, you know, lumber, and let's say that 6 foot lengths, and then we have some other specifications for 12 foot lengths. Let's say it's M24, and then for the labor, let's say carpenter, and he has to be state certified. We'll say that. And then you can add more labor, add more material specifications. Now we'll just add this in, and then now that specification is there. You can add in as many as you like, obviously. Then we'll go back over now to the purchase order so you can see how these are applied. So we'll add the same project, same vendor. Now we'll do P2-001, date issued. Okay. Contact person John Smith. Now for the terms and conditions, we'll select this one. If you had many in here, all of them would appear there. You could select the appropriate one. So we'll select this one, save it, and then for this, we'll say we want, let's just say we want the lumber. 2x4 and 6 foot lengths, and then we want to select the lumber oak 2x4 here, and you can see how that would go. I mean, you know, you could add in many specifications. You select the one that it applies to for the item that you're adding, and then you can also add in which task it goes to. So if you had, for example, a construction setup here, and you had a task in for framing, you could add that as the task that it applies to. In this case, let's use the same multi-predecessor task so you can see how these work together. So we'll do that. For the quantity, we'll do 1, and we'll do $2, and we'll add that item in there. And then we'll add this purchase order. Okay, so now we have this purchase order in here. And now what we'll do is we will know that this one corresponds to the same example multi-predecessor task here. So, but when we change the status from draft to issued, we should see the amount committed changed. So I will hit refresh. We'll come back down and we'll see that the $2 is talking about the unit price, the total unit price here on this item here. Okay, and then if we switched it to paid, then it would switch from this column to that column. The forecast cost would be, let's say that you thought it was going to be $110 instead of $105. We can see how the variance would then recalculate. The percentage complete, you can see where remember where this came from earlier, that 100%, when we plugged that in earlier, the 50%, that's where those are coming in. And then for the earned value, you can see how these are calculated, where it says, okay, well, you've finished 100%, so you've got 100% earned value. And then if you need a reminder of what these are, so the CPI is earned value over actual. So you can see that there's no actual for this one. That's why this is NA. But so that's a brief introduction to the financial overview. These are then the same information, just compiled at a WBS level. So now we've gone through Gantt, calendar, schedule. We've gone through change orders, purchase orders. These are similar cost tracker. That's what we're on now. Manage. So you've got daily logs where you can go in and add in certain things about what happened during the day. You've got a time tracker where you can go in and add. The employees can. I'm logged in as an admin, so it doesn't give me the option, but employees can add in time here, which will then also be reflected in the financial sheet if it's associated with a task. You can add in checklists and then apply those checklists to several projects. We went through specifications, terms and conditions. WBS, you can create a WBS. When you select the template and import a template, it comes with a WBS, and you can change it if you want to whatever you like. The new tasks that I assigned or added, those don't have a WBS created, or they don't have one assigned to them. You can assign one. You can just select one here and then assign it. Let's show that. So say it's here, and then assign that, and it'll assign it there. Your WBS, what you have assigned so far and created, they'll show up here in this list. You can create another one if you like. You can select a parent if that's applicable, or you can leave it blank and create like a whole new one, like for example 2.0 or something. Give it a name that shows up here in this column, give it a description that's here, and then you click add and it shows up in this here. And then once it's here, you can use it to then assign it to the tasks like we just saw that we did there. We saw the user roles. As the license holder or any admin, you can actually create another admin that can do this as well for you. They can go in and create employees, clients, vendors, subcontractors, add in all your teammates, add in all their information in here. That's where more users, applicable users, would be added on this page. Subs and vendors portal. This is where your subs or your vendors would log in and see what either purchase order or subcontract is assigned to them, status on that. Client portal, this your client would log in and view change orders. Maybe in another video I'll go in a little more detail about this and log in as a client and show what they would see from their end, and show how they could review the change order, decline it, approve it, that kind of thing. The bids, this is very similar to the other tabs that you've seen, but this is where you would create bids, and it would produce the PDFs that we saw very quickly, so you can give those to prospective clients. Okay, now for the forecast cost, you can see where this is coming from. So you remember the $110 that I plugged in? Well, it sums up that whole column and it adds it in here. It sums up the current budget and puts it in here. The schedule, the percent complete is where it comes up with the percentage complete for the whole project. And that's these matrix. That's these metrics down here.